Welcome to Project Quantum Leap, the podcast. I'm Christina.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Sydney. 3 fans, 3 generations, 3 unique perspectives, 1 leap back into a television phenomenon.
Today, we follow Ben in a heavy-hitting mission to save a brotherly relationship. Be aware that this episode covers topics related to PTSD, survivor's guilt, and self-harm.
This is Season 1, Episode 3, Somebody Up There Likes Ben. The leap date is October 2nd, 1977. The subject of the leap, Danny Hill.
So, according to NBC's synopsis, Ben leaps to flashy 1970s Las Vegas and into the body of promising young boxer Danny Hill on the eve of a big title fight. Ben and Addison discover that everything is on the line and must help Danny and his trainer/brother Daryl win the fight or lose everything. Magic Ian and Jenn dig into Ben's past. To discover the truth.
A little bit of housekeeping. If you follow us on Twitter, we often forget to sign our tweets, but for the most part, you're talking to Christina over there. Hello. Just so everyone knows who's spazzing out and everything and what's going on. We do have a new banner on our Twitter, thanks to a listener who was kind enough to offer the support, but wanted to remain unnamed.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So going into the episode, I know I said that last week's episode felt classic Quantum Leap, but this episode really felt like classic Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is the first episode where I was just as vested in the Leap story as I was the present day story.
Yeah, this was probably, definitely my favorite episode so far. And I think that this is also the first episode that I really feel like it genuinely wouldn't have mattered if I've never seen or heard of the original Quantum Leap. It was just a really good episode on its own. But given, obviously, the context of the original Quantum Leap, as you said, it seems to definitely emulate and also call back to a lot of things from the original series, most of which is stuff you guys noticed before I did, of course, but I still just thought it was a really well-written episode in general for reasons that I will elaborate on later.
Yeah, before we even watched the episode, I saw the leap date and I was like, wait a minute, how old is Ben? I'm pretty sure the actor is my age, which, by the way, he's only 3 months younger than me. So I was like, how is he in the 70s? Are they just throwing that out? Are they going to forget about that whole thing? And then 10 minutes in, it was explained. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have doubted.
Yeah.
I figured they'd explain it at some point. I think I just wanted to
you never know if they're just going to kind of retcon a rule and not address it just to expand the story. I wouldn't fault them for that. But then that's not what they did. They actually came up with this whole explanation, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked how they did explain it. Personally, I was like, well, Ben uploaded all this new code. It's 30 years in the future. Maybe they figured something out and they're just not going to bother telling the rest of us. We're just supposed to figure it out. But I am glad that they gave us a little something to go off of.
It addresses a direct concern I had before the show started, before the season started.
The limiting time periods.
Yeah, with only, having the past 30 years, I feel like that's potentially not as exciting as it was when the show was on in the 80s and 90s, because I feel like the style differences in the last 30 years are maybe it's just because I lived them, but I feel like the distinctions of aesthetic and vibes and everything in the last 30 years are just less cinematic and exciting to watch, and probably more cringy, honestly, than watching the 70s and it also means maybe we could see more potentially than we even saw in the original show.
Yeah, they could go back. If they're using this concept, they could go back, well, as Magic said, right, to any point in time.
Maybe he's on his way to the birth of Jesus and solve the solve religion.
He's gonna solve religion.
Yeah.
But okay, would you really want to do that? Because
Well, no.
You don't want to validate one of them.
Yeah, like like let's say that you go back and you find out there's nothing. Okay, there's nothing. But if you go back and find out that there's something, it's like, well, shit, now I got to behave myself.
Or if it turned out the spaghetti monster people were right the whole time. Like, thank you, Quantum Leap.
As long as it's not Heaven's Gate.
Oh, God.
No.
If they were right, we're all screwed.
Oh, man.
Not a sponsor.
Definitely not a sponsor.
But they still exist. I've emailed them.
No way.
Way.
They're not trolling?
No. Like, the website's still up and running. It looks like something from the 90s. And I clicked the email link. And I was like, oh, LOL. You know, I wonder if this still works. And so I just, like, wrote something stupid like, does anybody still man this? And yeah, there's like 2 people still manning it.
Wow. I feel like that's something that authorities should be pursuing.
Yeah, I think they've demonstrated that they should not be allowed to be a religion.
Yeah.
But they're
I think that's been demonstrated.
They're not actively recruiting though.
Okay.
So I you know, since they were there, I asked them like all these questions. Yeah, I tried to be respectful because they're just people, you know, manning an email. It was a little creepy, a little weird, but yeah, they're not actively recruiting or anything, just waiting for their time to return with their brothers and sisters.
Well, I gotta say that I think that's the quickest we've ever derailed.
Yeah, wow. I was
Less than 10 minutes in, and we're talking about Heaven's Gate. How? How did that happen?
Literally you. That's how.
Hey, but I didn't just say it out of nowhere. It railed there.
And then it derailed.
And then it derailed. Oh, anyway. What were we talking about that caused that derail?
Religion. Ben going back to Jesus.
Going back to a specific time period that could be basically, as Magic said.
How far back
anywhere.
could that be?
Yeah.
Do you think it's something that has huge implications on the world or just on his life specifically?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge question that I don't think we have enough information for. Is it an important destination for the Quantum Leap project, or is it an important destination for humanity?
Or is it something that relates to Sam?
Or even just Ben?
Yeah. But why would Ben need to travel outside of his own lifetime for Ben?
I don't know. Maybe
his parents.
Maybe his great grandfather was a douche. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's be real. All of us have one of those.
Yes, we do.
Several at this point. Ancestors who were not good people.
Yep.
But yeah, I think what makes the most sense to me would be that he's going somewhere that pertains directly to the Quantum Leap project and probably has to do with Sam.
Yeah.
And not in a way that is gonna show Scott Bakula, obviously, because we know that he doesn't make an actual appearance in it.
Well, do we know that? Or is that just misleading anti-hype?
I know the showrunner is pretty much they'll keep trying. But as of right now, no.
Okay.
Well,
I'll believe it when the season's over.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I'm not saying I really secretly think it is that he's in it somewhere, but I am not ruling it out until the season is over. And I hope that it would be that would be a cool addition. But I'm not my hopes are up, but I'm not discounting it.
But still, what if it's, and I think we touched on this last time too, that it's not necessarily that he could be leaping to meet Sam in Scott Bakula form. He could be leaping to meet Sam in his childhood, or in,
a completely
young
different
version
leap.
of Sam, or catch him from a distance, and they do a CG Scott Bakula because he doesn't speak or anything. You only see him for a second, right?
Yeah.
So that's possible.
Yeah. Or seeing him in one of his leaps where he is someone else.
Yeah. That seems the most likely.
That would be a cool way to do it without being able to get him.
You know what I'm wondering, though? It's everybody else seems to have some sort of connection. Ben doesn't really seem to...
Sam and Al.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Magic obviously does. And Addison, she was military, so they're not really specific on what kind of branch she was in? Like, was it intelligence? Was it secret squirrel stuff? So I'm guessing that's probably how she got involved.
Yeah, I'm assuming she meant magic somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben doesn't seem to have a connection to any of it. Like, how did he even learn about this project?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, one of the things I said in the introductions episode
Yeah.
of our podcast was I hope that they don't connect everyone to someone else from the old show, because that can be a crutch.
Yeah.
So far, I don't think they've used it as a crutch. So I don't know, I'm holding out hope that he isn't somehow connected to the others.
They don't try to like Rey Skywalker it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we do know for an absolute fact he is not related to Sam Beckett in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That was a theory that I'd seen pop up, and good theory, but yeah, the actress and the actor are two completely different ethnicities, so
Adoption, except when would he have found time to adopt someone? Exactly.
right? Yeah, so yeah.
He also could be the child of somebody who was leapt into.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Making a connection is a lot. It's kind of
different
easier
than a
to do
crutch.
that now and make them more distinct connections because of how many people that Sam has leapt into. That opens up the possibility of like, it's not necessarily that this is a person who is related to this other character, but
has
it's
touched the
kind of
life of
connected
somehow.
to them through a
Because you're right, because when Sam would leap into someone, they were like, oh, well, so-and-so grew up, got married, and they had like 5 kids.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe Ben's a baby that never would have been born otherwise.
I mean, we already saw in the Atlantis episode, you said, I can't remember her name, but Samantha
Strat.
was the daughter of the first episode,
Yeah.
right? Of
I
the
don't know if
original
they
show.
confirmed it, but I mean, come on, that's quite the coincidence that she has the same exact name.
Yeah, so
You know?
we are already kind of seeing that. So yeah, I would buy that. And so long as it's not used as a crutch, I'll remain happy about whatever they do and do not connect.
Yeah.
But-
I'm just more like, how did he even be like, hey, I'm going to do this? I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
Sam's baby, Sam's project. So, like, how did this guy even find out about it?
We're gonna see an inciting incident for Ben that caused him to get part of Quantum Leap. Why
Yeah.
didn't he become an astronaut? Why did he start doing quantum physics?
Yeah.
Well, I would hope we're going to kind of get that for everybody. We're going to see how this party came together because they
Yeah.
clearly, like, they spend so much time in this episode, particularly, really illustrating their family dynamic. These are not just coworkers. Like, we knew that by now, but it's really drilled in now in this episode that this is a family unit and they all love each other in a family way. And as such, where did that start? How did all of these people come together? How did they join forces for this project? Was it just that, Magic went out and found all of them individually? Did kind of like a Sam Jackson Avengers thing?
Smart people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, Tony Stark was smart.
That's true, but he was also
Sexy.
no. What did he say? Too dangerous to be a part of the team. They just wanted him to consult.
Yeah.
We don't trust that goatee.
Yeah, don't trust him.
I do say I missed Magic content in this episode. There wasn't very much of him, and he is my favorite character thus far. So I was like, oh, like we didn't really get to see that much of him in this episode. I think part of my
it was clear why.
What was that?
I think it was clear why though.
Yeah, I know. It was clear why, but it still is like, oh man, I didn't get to see my favorite character as much. I think there's definitely like pre-existing bias for why he's my favorite character, just because I love Ernie Hudson so much. But still,
Yeah, but I mean, he's a good character. I'm having personally a very hard time picking a favorite character.
That's true. I almost said like 5 different characters' names, just trying to conform my thought for the next thing I wanted to say, and it kept changing so fast. I liked all the characters. They're all, I think we had said this on a previous episode, they all have a great starting point for their development.
Yeah.
For their character development for this whole season at the very bare minimum. And as a team as well, as a unit. And whereas and like I said in last episode, I was worried that there was going to be like a focus on the drama in the team.
Yeah.
And I think this episode kind of more cemented in the fact that that's not where they're going to go. Or if it does go there, it's going to have a larger impact because we're actually being shown the opposite. We're being shown how close they actually are. They do communicate. They do trust. And that scene where they all join Addison at the end.
Oh, God, I cried.
That was very heartfelt, very heartwarming. And yeah, I mean, I felt the emotion there. And it was very well executed. I also liked seeing how they all kind of dressed differently. Like they have work clothes and then they have home clothes, which I think is a very small detail that doesn't happen too much.
Yeah.
But even Ian's hair, they did it like very different from what they do when they're at work, where it's just all slicked back for the most part. But Ian had a very like, this is my not work appearance to themselves.
Okay, since we're talking about Ian, remember how I said like Al's costumes were always the best? Ian had
they've got it going on.
They have got the Al genetics right there. And then did you notice the tie? Like, it was very Ziggy-esque.
I didn't. I'll have to go check it out.
I have to go back and check it out.
I'm like, oh my God, their tie is Ziggy.
I mean, that is very much just like Mason. If you follow Mason on any social media, though, like that is very much like their personality. They're kind of like.
I wonder if they
very
are consulted or allowed like personal flavor in their costume, or if the designers just know them that well, then they know that this will fit.
I'm pretty sure there's some input. Like, I know once upon a time, the actors were kind of consulted on, you know, what costume pieces would be this, and I know Jennifer Morrison like picked out different like necklaces and things that Emma would wear or whatever. So
they have the character insight, so that kind of makes sense.
Exactly. So I'm sure there's something along those lines, and I mean, Ian is fabulous. Yeah. Love the style, and I love the character. And I said it last episode, I'm saying it again, they're the BFF that everybody needs in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're also acting that way in the to everyone in that team. And it's good to see.
I also think one of the many reasons why it is so great that we're getting more representation for non-binary characters is also because it opens up the doorway to so many fashion options for literally everyone. It shows an example of like, you don't have any reason not to dress like whatever you want. Like,
exactly.
Here is this character demonstrating that. Like, wear whatever you want. You know, like, gender is irrelevant when it comes to that. Yeah. So that's just another reason why I think it's really cool that we have a non-binary both actor and character to illustrate that. But also kind of looping back to what we were talking about a little bit with this specific episode, I think for me the strongest thing about it was that it really established this pattern or structure of the immediate issue that the person being leapt into has to deal with in their life to fix their problems. Really mirrors the problem that's happening in present day. So,
you know how Addison wasn't taking care of herself?
Yeah. In this case, Ben learned, like, it's not that I have to win this fight to save this person. It's that I have to tell the brother, like, hey, you need to get help. Yeah. Whereas, and then that told him, well, in my actual Ben's real life, I need to tell Addison the same thing. Hey, you need to get help. You're not taking care of yourself. Yeah. So that ended up being, you know, the actual message of what the theme of this episode was, hey, sometimes it is the brave, strong thing to admit that you need help. Because both those characters, was it Daryl? Was that his name?
Daryl.
Daryl's the brother. Daryl. And Addison are both tough, strong, leader, big sibling types. Yeah. And even they have times where, they might not be taking care of themselves or prioritizing themselves because they have to take care of everyone around them. And that it's okay to admit, like, hey, I need help, I need to take care of myself. And that is in and of itself a strong, admirable thing worth looking up to. So that's what this whole episode was about to me. And I love that we've established that, okay, maybe in every episode we see that this lesson that Ben has to solve for the person in the past is directly going to teach him a lesson that he can then apply to strengthening his family of those characters.
And like, I want to talk about Caitlin in those scenes. You can tell that not only is the character has gone through these similar things as Daryl, but you could see that the actress as well has dealt with this.
You talking about Addison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's,
Caitlin's the actress's name.
Got it.
Because
And that's very, I mean, you're in the military. Especially if you ever go overseas, you're just so likely to have some sort of trauma you bring back home with you.
Yeah, and
that's why she recognized immediately. Addison recognized what Daryl had been through right away. Like, she tells Ben, like, oh, these are PTSD symptoms.
Yeah.
Like, these are veteran these are the things that happen to veterans. I know because I am one. And there's another trait that she has in common with Daryl.
I also, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and just the way she talked about, I've seen my soldiers go through this, but she has too.
Yeah.
That's
that's
where
where
she's very
in
much like not admitting her own
that
perceived weakness.
I keep trying to interrupt. That plays directly into what I wanted to say next, which is the way that Daryl and Addison are both, I'm not going to say they refuse help, but the way the stigma is different for them. They're trying to overcome the same issue. They need help. But the way that they can't accept it is totally different. Where, Daryl is a black man in the 70s who, I mean, there's just huge stigma societally about him needing help and getting help. And there is just, how would he even know where and how to get help? He probably does not, because the VA, I don't even know if it existed back then.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And if it did, it probably was not the best to
mental health was not on the forefront of their mind when soldiers came home from war. I mean, it's still not, but at least it's addressed.
Yeah, I'm finding out right now when the VA.
But then hearing it from another grown-ass man, like, hey, it's okay to not be able to do this. You need help, and we'll find your help together.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would be surprised if that moment when they were being arrested would not have fixed the leap technically on its own, because Daryl probably never heard that from anyone before Ben jumps in.
You're not alone in this.
Yeah. Whereas Addison's is a self-motivated, I have to do this because no one else can, sort of refuting of help. Or she's not actively refuting help, but she just feels like this internal motivation that there's nothing else to be done except just keep going.
Yeah.
And I have to do it all. So they're two very different angles for why they need help. And the things they need to overcome to get that help is totally different. But related. I thought that was cool.
So really quick, the Department of Veterans Affairs was founded March 15th, 1989.
Yeah.
So he's like...
well before that.
Yeah, over 10 years.
Yep.
So...
and it's still not great.
No, I mean, it's better than it was.
It is.
Yeah, it's no 1977.
Yeah. But
that was a world that didn't have Star Wars yet.
Yeah.
It was just about to.
Yeah. But I mean, this episode did a really good job of just portraying that in general and the struggle. And especially with Vietnam, those soldiers came home and people treated them like shit.
Still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that are alive.
Not only not many, but very many of them. I worded that incorrectly. Not many of them came home to a stable environment.
Yeah.
Most of them did not.
Oh yeah.
I know we talked about our teacher, Mr. Nichols,
Mhm.
in one of our episodes. I don't remember which one. You know, he was definitely seems to be the exception to the case where, yeah, like he went through a horrible time.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was not shy about saying how horrible it was. But he came back more or less well adjusted.
Yeah.
But that's so not the normal for Vietnam.
Well, and then we also knew him later in life, so who
Yeah.
knows how long it took him to get to
Yeah,
that
I mean, it was
point.
like 25 years later.
Yeah.
So we just dated ourselves.
Oh God.
Grandpas.
Oops.
Of course, we dated him more, so.
Yeah.
But no one knows who he is. They're not listening to him.
You dated him?
That's illegal.
We revealed the date of the person I dated.
Like, what? This just took a weird turn. Let's go back to talking about Heaven's Gate again.
Okay, let's just segue away from that.
Awkward.
One of the first notes that I actually made in the in my thoughts while I was watching the episode is liking that Ben's memories are all being triggered by emotional responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone who's so very sciencey, for the logical, mathematical, but his memory is coming back not based on anything tangible, but emotional responses to the people he's in. Being an astronaut and remembering he was an astronaut that wanted to be an astronaut that
Yeah.
immigrated. Seeing that Danny has a brother and then remembering, oh, I'm an only child. I always wish I had a brother. I liked I like that connection, right? We're seeing more of not just the sciencey guy, but the thing that makes him unique, akin to Sam,
Yeah.
the good, emotional, well-natured person. And I think a little bit later he even says something to the effect of he cares too much, and that's just another like drive that home. Like he is the person that should have been leaping the whole time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He is so much like Sam, but different in his own way. He is definitely his own unique character.
Yeah.
But his traits that make him a good person are so pure. And I really like that whole thing going on. And I think the memories unlocking is a good like embellishment,
Yeah.
or flourishment,
Yeah.
whatever
And
that word is, to that.
I like how they are not holding back on those. I mean, yeah, they're doing it bits and pieces a little at a time, but I think he's going to get more memories back than not within the next few episodes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me. I don't know if it's just for a story structure reason or if there's some deeper meaning behind it, but he seems to be having these memory triggers, these milestones, like within the first like 10 minutes of having made the leap. Well,
Yeah,
I guess
it's so...
yeah, like really
I think
early
it was,
on, you know, into the leap.
Yeah.
And so, and then when it looks like he's almost about to start remembering about Addison toward the end, that is as he's about to leap again.
Yeah.
And so that makes me wonder if maybe he's psychologically or emotionally affected by like the action of leaping, like stimulates that part of his brain and makes some stuff start coming back.
That's
Maybe.
always a possibility.
That does bring up something else, is like something that's new and different to this for this format than the original, is Ben is not leaping the moment something is fixed. There is a like cool down period, right?
Yeah.
Like he won the fight, his brother was happy, he's not going to do anything to self-harm himself. But then like the fight finishes, he rejoices, they presumably have a little party, and then he has alone time with Addison all before he leaps. And that's so very different.
Yeah.
And I think that is just probably just a technical choice to give Addison and Ben time to communicate, because there's much more present day than there ever was in the original.
Yeah.
But it brings in a new dynamic, something that is definitely very different but is a great way to explore relationship that the first one, the original show, kind of lacked.
Yeah.
But this is also specifically after he connects the lesson for the person he leapt into
To
to
himself.
asking Addison for help. Like, so it's almost as though the leap is triggered by him not only helping the leapy, but also by applying the lesson to himself is then when it's triggered. Because it was
Makes
after he
sense.
said to Addison, like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this, but you have to promise to get help. You have to take care of yourself. And then he started to tell her, like, I think I may have remembered some stuff. And that's when the leap is triggered.
Yeah.
So that's a potential, like, yeah, I wonder, similar to Andrew, like if that was just for story structure or if there's actually something there to the leap is not just triggered by helping the person in the past, but by helping himself.
I think that does bring up a good point, because in the last episode of the original, the bartender, Al, he tells Sam that Sam is the one controlling the leap, so maybe there is something to that. He's like, okay, lesson learned, we've got this going on, here's some memories, and now it's time to go. Like, it could be a subconscious thing. So maybe he does have a bit of control that he's unaware of.
Oh, that new code, man.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that this leap, like when it started to happen, seemed to happen a lot faster. Like
It did.
Like the other ones, like I'll have to go and maybe watch the other ones, but I felt the effects were more closer to the original, where I remember specifically in the pilot, he gets kind of like a glowing blue aura around him.
Yeah.
And then he kind of glows blue and then leaps. But in this episode, he had like the I call them God rays, where like the lights, where there's like a definite line of light coming out of something.
Yeah,
and he gets it all coming out of his face, but it takes like a second, whereas like the first episode's leap took like 15 seconds.
Maybe.
I was wondering if that was just a technical choice to make the drama of him remembering Addison like hi.
Or maybe whoever's controlling the leap is like, oh shit, he's about to remember. Get him out of there.
Go. Yeah, maybe.
There's some things he cannot know.
But I do want to go back and watch the first episode because I don't remember the God rays coming out of his face. But that is something that happened to Sam's. That was his effects. So
yeah,
I'm sure it's just a non-important detail that I picked up on, or I saw nothing and I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. But just something I took note of and I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and you know what else I did notice is when he leaps in, it's generally not the same as when like Sam would leap in. There's like almost a different effect. Like
yeah, he's just kind of there, right?
Yeah. It's like kind of like a close up on him, and then everything kind of zooms out and you get the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So
how was it for Sam? I can't recall.
He would basically leap out with the blue light, and then he would leap in with another blue light.
Oh, I see. That's right.
Thing, yeah.
So, speaking of old things.
Uh-oh.
You guys.
Hey!
Hey! I was thinking more along the lines of the old Ziggy.
Who's
handling.
Technically younger than us.
Yeah.
I'll let you have
No,
that.
but not by much.
Only 15 or so years.
Oh, yeah, because that's not the original Ziggy, right?
Yeah.
So. Oh, also, I'm thinking of when the show was created, not the date in the show, which was 99, so.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, I think they pinpointed
95.
his first leap in 95. I don't know if that's confirmed.
But this Ziggy
yeah.
was like, that was like season 3 Ziggy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So, it was 98.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I
So that wasn't
12.
original Ziggy. That was
Ziggy,
like,
original
far into
Ziggy
the
was
show.
like, I think there was a couple like original Ziggies that kind of looked like a calculator type of thing. making little hand motions, like
Yeah.
you guys know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
No one can see you
Yeah.
except us.
And that's different from the hand link thing that looks like Bionicle.
I call that one
Yeah.
the glowing Tetris one.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like a bunch of Tetris pieces glued, but they're also like that clear acrylic.
It looks
So
like
they
Bionicles
kind of like-
or
well,
like
Yeah.
Connect.
Yeah. So, I think we discovered from this episode that Al liked to keep shit.
Yeah. And who's surprised?
Well, and here's the thing, like, I know a lot of people were upset when they were talking about, the project was abandoned and all this, and like, Al would never abandon Sam. I think this is confirmation that even after the government said you're done,
He wasn't.
he wasn't, and
I mean, we got that literal confirmation from, I don't remember her name, his wife,
Beth.
or Janice's mom. I don't know
Beth.
if they were ever married, but
No, yeah, they were married.
they were?
Yeah.
Okay. What was she, number 7?
No, she was number 1.
Oh, okay.
She was number 1. And
Okay.
when Sam went back the last time, he changed it so she never left him.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait to watch that episode. But yeah, like the whole, like she says to Janice, like, your father wasted the rest of his life. So it
Yeah.
seems like Al literally did it until he passed away.
And it probably had a big effect on his health,
Yeah. The constant stress levels being that high.
Yeah.
So, like, on that note, I get where Beth is coming from,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I need to see more about this mystery box in order to have full thoughts about it, I think.
It was really cool to see, not the original, but the hand link, the iconic hand link.
I'm sure it was a recreation.
It is actually, because I think the original 2, Belisario, I think, has one, and I think Stockwell's family has the other.
Nice.
I want to say that's what it was. I could be wrong.
By the way, I sidebar, I like to make prop replicas, and I make toys and stuff, and I do resin casting. I very much want to make one of these now.
Oh, I definitely want one. I see it from both sides, Beth and Janice, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get Beth wants to protect her daughter, and I get Janice is like gung-ho, I need to finish Dad's work. I feel like there's going to be more contention that we're going to see between those two. I feel like this is a long history of butting heads.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like sitting there thinking, when she asked, do you think that I couldn't do it? And I'm like, does she really think that, or does she really just not want her to go down that path?
Yeah, I don't think that was in Beth's mind. Like, whether or not she could wasn't even a factor. It was just,
she didn't want her to.
It's too much of a risk.
Yeah. Now, my current working theory is that there's going to be a third party, and that Janice and the team are actually going to be doing the same thing, actually on the same side.
I think so too. I mean, the way it's setting up makes it look like she might be the bad guy, but I don't get that.
I don't believe it yet.
I know she's a little she's doing things a little unorthodox.
She's rebellious.
Yeah.
But she definitely doesn't give off bad person vibes.
Yeah.
Especially, they wouldn't do that. If it's this iconic character's daughter.
Yeah.
She's
I
gonna
hope
be
not.
Oh, people would be pissed.
Yeah, there'd be way too much backlash there. I think ultimately she's probably doing something that's very personal, but I think her goal is to complete what her dad was doing, not to contradict what her dad was doing.
And I don't think, because we saw that she built something.
Yeah.
And some people were like, oh, she's going to leap. And I don't think that's it. I think she's going to use Ziggy to either, talk to Ben, talk to Sam.
I think it's a receiver.
Something
I think
like
she's
that.
trying to get someone to come back from Leap. I think it's supposed to house where they come back.
Oh.
That's my thought.
Interesting.
right? Like maybe she is still trying to get Sam back, or maybe it's for Ben, or maybe there's someone else. You know, this whole evil Leapers thing could still be a thing.
Well, even if it even if it's not them, you know, the evil Leapers. Well, now she's hacked into the system, and it's
open.
It's open, and anybody with any kind of knowledge, you know, who's good at that kind of shit,
or
can
some new person.
So it could totally be that by doing this, she's inadvertently started the evil leaping project.
Yeah, I mean, it could be literally the evil Leapers we've already seen.
Yeah.
It's just they came from this time period, not the 90s.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And it sounded like when they were in the original series, it sounded like they were like either super far from the future or from some like hell realm. I never quite figured that out.
Did they call them evil Leapers in the show, or is that just what we're calling them?
They did. I don't know if Sam and Al called him that, but one of the title cards was like Return of the Evil Leaper. Oh. So, you know, that was...
But they're not calling themselves that, obviously, because that seems a little...
No. They're like, I'm evil, twirl my mustache.
Yeah.
They obviously have some motive that in their eyes is not evil.
Oh, no. They literally want to just fuck shit up.
Really?
Uh-huh.
You're good, Leaper. I'm bad, Leaper.
Yeah, like Sam had leaped into this one family situation, and he like fixed the family dynamic and everything turned out great. And 2 years later, these guys leaped in to break the family up.
Wow.
Just for, I don't know, funsies.
I
don't buy it. They have an end goal that is evil, but to them seems justified. Like, I'll bring up, like, if they were, like, Hitler's Leapers, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes, that's objectively evil, but from their point of view, they're not evil. They're just fixing the races or whatever they want to fucking believe. I'm just saying, from their point of view, they don't think they're evil. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. That, you know, that whole mentality.
Yeah.
Because I think, I'm basically fighting for this because I think the bad guys who are bad because they're evil, mwahaha, is just not interesting.
Yeah, and like
they have to have some sort of conviction or something.
Yeah,
and that's the big problem I always had with the evil Leapers is there didn't seem to be anything. And then Sam wound up saving the one girl who was trying to get out of that whole thing, but the other two were like they just enjoyed being mean and fucking shit up.
Well, yeah. So
Skeletor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not saying that the Leapers themselves might not just be lackeys, but the people in charge of it.
Yeah.
That leads an interesting question that I'm sure is asked in the original series. But do the evil Leapers have more control over where they leap? They must.
It kind of seems like they do because when the one girl failed in her mission, they got pulled back.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't, and then, so that to me says that something is controlling them. Maybe they have better technology. They actually had one where they specifically pinpointed a person and said, this is where this person's going to go. And that leaper went into that person at that point in time. So it sounds like they might have more updated, like you said, they might be from this time period and not back in the 90s when the original project was running.
Perhaps they're using Ben and Janice's code like that. That could be where this is headed, or it could be none of this.
Yeah, it could, right?
Just a ride where I'm ready to ride.
Yeah.
Going back to what's happened in this episode, I want to talk about Magic again because, you know, he's my favorite character.
We know.
But going back to that team dynamic, the scene where I think it's a one-off thing where he's like, you know, I don't remember the exact words, but he's basically fighting against the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
It just goes back to, like, he is this dad character taking care of this team. He is so vested in his teammates that he's willing to basically take all this brunt from the man,
Yeah.
and just to keep the team close. And man, I love that.
The fact that he
But-
was like, I can hold him off. I just need to know if it's short term or long term.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So because that's really the only good content I got from Magic, I wanted to bring that up. That I love that. It's just
Yeah.
more solidifying what we said in the last episodes, where he is the dad character. He is the one taking care of the big hits that might come their way.
Yeah. And also just the personal hits. When he told Addison, yeah, they want you down
Yeah.
for 2 days. And she's like,
Yeah.
excuse me? He's like, yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours.
Yeah.
Give him 2 hours. It's like, I know you're going to rebel. So just, go on.
But take care of yourself.
Yeah.
There's also a scene, God, I can't remember what the information was that Jenn had to give Magic. And maybe it's just my over-analytical brain looking at it, but every other shot it's called a Dutch angle, a super, super tilted angle. Where like normally if you're looking at the TV screen, a person is standing upright, correct?
Right.
But it's like 45 degrees angles where they're coming out of like the corner of the
Yeah,
screen.
and kind of from below. It's very
Huh.
common
Yeah.
in Marvel movies. You see it a lot. It's super trendy right now.
But
Especially
the only
below
time
ones.
I noticed it was when Magic and Jenn
Yeah.
were speaking, and I'm wondering if they're trying to tell us there's something fishy there.
What if Jen's like the third party?
I hope not.
But you never know. Maybe it's not nefarious.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's working with Janice and it's not nefarious.
No, that's what I
But-
mean. She's Ben, Janice,
yeah.
and then
I see what
Jenn.
you mean. I would consider them the second party. I'm thinking of third party as someone we don't know yet.
yeah. Okay.
Like-
No, I mean like maybe she.
Okay, I see what you
yeah, maybe she's that third person in their little group.
But it was the only scene in this episode where I noticed it, and in typical not Marvel movies, that is used to elicit discomfort, like something is suspicious, right?
Mhm.
In Marvel movies, it's because it's the fifth shot. but but in this show, it felt like it had a purpose, and I'm wondering if I'm looking too much into that, the same as I am.
For me,
with
it
the
felt
effects.
just like it was like this is establishing a different tone for this part of the story.
Yeah, maybe.
Be it too.
Like here's it's when it's Jenn and Magic, we're looking at dad and the oldest sister, and they're more covert, they talk more business, they are a little bit less emotional than the rest,
Mhm.
especially
I
with-
disagree,
I mean,
but
not-
Magic hides it.
well, that's what I mean. Like in
Yeah.
the way
'Cause
that
he's
they
the dad.
handle and the way that they discuss, they're able to set those things aside to talk about, the mission. And so I feel like the cinematography in that moment was just to establish like that's the vibe of this part.
Yeah, I could see
It
that.
felt
Yeah.
it felt like a style thing to me more than anything else. I also think like Jenn in the last episode was so insistent on doing everything by the book exactly as Magic wants that I couldn't see her at all. Even just 3 episodes in with her character, I can't see her doing anything that Magic doesn't know about. I can't see her keeping things from
Yeah.
Magic.
I mean, like I could see her trying to be helpful if she thought the situation warranted it. But yeah, you're right. I don't think she could do anything behind Magic's back.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. I hope not, because of what they've
Just seems
demonstrated
really
thus
out
far.
of character so far. Like I could see Ian and Addison like conspiring to keep something secret from Matt, because they kind of did last time.
Yeah.
Like, but not because they're trying to disobey him, but because like they're trying to get away with something, and they don't want Dad to find out because they know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But Jenn was on the other side of the spectrum where she was like, no, you're gonna get in trouble.
I'm telling.
Now, to be fair, I don't think Ian ever really wanted to hold it back from Magic,
No.
right? They said to Addison to be right off the bat, like, Jenn should have this, and they agreed to keep it from Magic because Addison insisted, but they were actually on board with including the whole team from the
Yeah,
get-go.
but they have
Well,
that sibling loyalty though.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
do what you
Yeah.
want.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you have that one ride or die person that will help you
Yeah.
hide the body while at the same time telling you, yeah, maybe you should go to the police.
Yeah, the Chucky
You know?
Finster of the party. I don't think that's such a good idea, Tommy.
Exactly.
But he's still gonna do it.
Yeah.
Baby's got to do what baby's got to do.
So, Vietnam was brought up in this episode again. Obviously, we were talking about it earlier. Do you think that's going to become a theme? Like, I'm wondering if it's coincidence, just because based on the time period, or if it was an intentional choice because of, Sam's connection to Vietnam, Magic's connection to Vietnam. I wonder if this has something to do with Sam or not. What do you think?
Possibly. Because Vietnam was just a big theme throughout. Even when it had nothing to do with Vietnam, there was something about Vietnam being said, or Al was a Vietnam veteran. So I can see having a vet there. It might not be as prominent, but I think it could still be like an underlying theme kind of running through there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering if on this slingshot path Ben is taking, if we think that it has something to do with Ben, if there's going to be maybe some jumps more related to Magic again, or Sam's brother.
That's possibly.
I just thought it'd be fun to kind of see that kind of stuff, because they do seem to be, although not taking direct episode information, I can't think of the wording, to make these new episodes, they are following these heavily, like you said, the themes of the original.
Yeah.
And Vietnam being that, and Sam's family being it. It might be cool.
I was also wondering that map, how did we already talk about how they explained it, or did we talk about that off
we
record?
I mentioned that it was cool how they related it to something. They related the quantum to astrophysics, but then we kind of moved on from that. We didn't.
Yeah. So I was
stick on it.
So I was wondering, obviously it's a map, and it's specific points in time, but is it places too, or is that random? Like,
That's
is
a
it
good point.
he has to be this person at this point in time, and do this, or is it just he needs to be here at this point in time to be able to get to this next
To the next point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. My analytical brain tells me what he's doing and who he's in would probably be irrelevant. But from a writing standpoint, that seems to be unlikely. So
Okay.
my guess would be it's probably important who he is. Right?
And is that something he planned, or is it something that, they're like, okay, you have to be here,
Yeah.
here, here. This is that person.
Or is it just the math that said here, here, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I do want to point out, though, I'm pretty sure that the path was a Fibonacci spiral.
Everything's a Fibonacci spiral, though.
Yeah. You know
Explain
what
it
Fibonacci
like
is?
I'm 5. I probably do, but I don't know big words sometimes.
It's a mathematical
Fibonacci's
sequence, like a geometric.
Yeah, the mathematical sequence, as discovered or elaborated by Fibonacci, a mathematician, is a sequence of mathematical numbers that happens so much in nature, and we don't
But it
physically
represents
understand
like
why.
it represents
but
like
it
physical
happens.
perfection when you look at something.
Like,
Like you can
yeah.
line it up, like it makes a spiral, and like you
Okay.
can line
So
it up.
think
with
of
things.
the most common and popular example is a nautilus shell. is
Okay.
a perfect representation
All right.
of a Fibonacci sequence. Now, technically, the Fibonacci sequence is like, 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. And so each area of the spiral is equal to the previous two numbers, the previous two areas
Okay.
added. So 1 plus 2 would be the first two areas, 3 would be the next, and then 2 plus 3 makes 5, so 5 would be the next area. And that's how much. So as you can see, it gets exponentially bigger, like as it spirals in.
Okay.
But the path, like the destinations that I saw, appeared to be a Fibonacci sequence. And maybe it's
Interesting.
just because it looks good, because it does, or maybe they're gonna put some science into that.
That would be interesting to see.
They likened it to the Voyager's slingshot, and maybe that's because the Voyager used Fibonacci sequence to create a gravitational thrust, or maybe it is just random. I don't know. Either way, it looked cool.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it.
But is anything really truly random?
I don't know. That's a very deep philosophical question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot we're in the sci-fi section.
I will say also one other thing I wanted to touch on was that I think one of my favorite parts, other than the Real Housewives scene at the end, my other favorite part was the sort of bit with Addison helping Ben to learn boxing. Because I feel like it was kind of reminiscent of like how Al sort of knew everything and was just like, I can teach you how to do that. But also, like, it made sense for her character to have some knowledge of that, being of a military, like, badass background. Like, she would be good at combat type things. Also, look at her muscles. But also...
I envy her.
Yeah. I also think that it was just a really good way to create sort of an establishment of chemistry and romantic tension between the two of them in a unique way. Because, it is kind of a unique situation where that they're already together. It's not really a will they, won't they. They're already in love. It's just that one character doesn't know that they are yet. Like, he forgot. But she knows. But in a way, he still has to fall in love with her all over again.
And we're seeing that happen.
Yeah, but while simultaneously seeing her illustrate the ways that she already knows she loves him and has for, however many years they've clearly been together already. And in typical doofusy boy fashion, like, she is doing everything she can to show him, like, I am literally dying, like, starving myself and exhaustion because I love you so much. And he's just like, what? He has no idea, completely oblivious to the fact that she's like, I love you.
Yeah.
But it was a cool sequence of, it was clever how, because they have the technology now to watch the fight as it happened and memorize it. Although I do think there should be like a little warning, like, hey, you cannot learn boxing from watching videos.
No.
I'm pretty sure they do, actually.
But yeah.
They heavily study the videos of their competitors.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you're not going to be a professional boxer after one video.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and that wasn't even one video. That was like one day. Like, it was really impressive.
That was a fight.
The fact that he was able to get as good as
it was
he
one
did
maneuver.
from one, memorizing one video over the course of one night.
That brings up the next two things I want to talk about, which is I wanted to bring up this scene too, but for a completely different reason. The capabilities of Ziggy.
Oh my god.
What a cool, like,
Yeah.
like we saw the little hologram that it made in episode 1 with the map. But this is basically the same thing, I guess. It's just a much bigger hologram, right?
Yeah.
But it's very good. Like, she can rewind it again and again. She puts it basically life size. That was very cool to kind of see that sort of Ziggy interface that Ben can see.
Yeah.
At least we presume he can see it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He saw the map.
Yeah, he saw the map. Well, it's like and in the original, it's a definite upgrade because when Al would use the thing to make little images, it was, you know, cheesy, still shots,
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah, I was happy to see the new like technology that the new thing Ziggy can do,
Yeah.
or at least the updated way it's doing it. I guess it's technically not new, but to the extent that it can do it is ramped up to 11. You know.
Exactly.
But also, I loved that scene playing into the drama and emotion of the last scene, or not the last scene, but the climax, the actual fight.
Yeah.
Where they do the thing, and we think it worked, and then it didn't. Like
It's
it,
not
like
over.
yeah,
He
it got him.
celebrates too soon every time.
Yeah, it got him past the moment, but it was like, oh shit, now I need to like
Actually win.
do more. Like,
Wing
I
it.
thought that was really cool. Yeah, and I thought that was. I mean, I was feeling it, right? I was like so in the episode, and I was, zoned into it, and just like feeling that emotion.
Good drama.
Where I can't remember the guy's name, the champ.
Daryl?
Yeah.
Or the main
No,
guy?
no.
Gets, yeah.
The other guy.
He. Well, we don't
wasn't
know.
it another D name? Oh no, you mean the champ, the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, where he gets back up again.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh no. And then Ben almost gets knocked out, and he tells the ref, "I'm Ben Song." Wait, no, I'm not.
Okay, you wouldn't know how I felt that when they're counting down and the guy's on the ground. I'm like, the first thing that went through my head is like, this is like Donkey Kong Country. We're gonna get another boss, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like this. And then they got to 9, and like there's this pause. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think I wasn't noticing the counting, but then I don't remember exactly what the shot was and what was going on, but I was like, oh, they've just brought attention to the counting. That counting's going to stop. He's going to get back up. And then watching it happen, I was just like, oh, it was a good it was a good dramatic, well written climax for the leap.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And it was kind of cool how it's not like, you know, Ben's all, hey, I won. I did the thing. You know, he had to really work for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Also clever
And
how
take a beating for it.
Yeah. Literally took a beating. I also like how he cleverly thought like, oh, I learned how to fight left-handed because this person is left-handed, but I am still right-handed and my opponent's not going to see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they literally did watch videos, so this guy would have known his left-handed stances, and so that would have been just. I mean, I feel like that's actually a fairly realistic. If a fighter could pull that off, your opponent wouldn't see that coming.
Oh no, definitely.
I mean, I'm not a boxer. Big surprise, but to me, it feels realistic. I should say. I did have a question going back, if it's something I missed or maybe something I just don't understand or something they haven't touched on yet. When Addison is in the hospital, it kind of feels like someone else should start being the hologram. Why is that not the case? Like,
Okay.
I understand why someone else can't leap. That makes total sense. But she just walks into a room with a Ziggy hand link and reads off information. I mean, I know it's not as simple as that. She's done research and all that stuff. But like,
It would be cool
she's
if they all
literally in a
took turns
hospital
doing
bed.
it.
Why can't someone else just go to the hologram room?
Yeah.
So there is an explanation. I don't know if it's the same. But Al and Sam like were connected through Ziggy, like specifically. Sam couldn't see if someone else walked into that imaging chamber. Sam wouldn't be able to see them unless they were physically touching Al. So, and sciencey stuff. It had something to do with their brainwaves. I don't know if they have the same kind of thing where Addison and Ben were linked like that. But I'm assuming it might have like kind of similar rules to that. And maybe someone else could go in, but they would probably need to be physically touching
Got it.
Addison.
I guess that makes sense. I will go and say one of the complaints I had about the first episode was how fast they dumped exposition and there was too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've clearly slowed down, and they did have some good exposition in this episode that I actually really liked. Like some of it's when he gets memory back. I also liked how they had the little bit where they are talking about what Ben's consciousness and Danny's body. It's Danny's hand you'll hit.
Yeah.
That was a good way to work the exposition. So I think they've really like smoothed that pace over, and it was just a product of being the pilot and having to get a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
So like I'm not like upset or anything that I didn't get the explanation. I was just curious, like I wonder if I missed it. And
they haven't explained that at all.
And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to explain it in the future because, like I said, when we first saw the title of this episode, I was like, what? They're just going to throw out the age limitation?
Yeah.
5 minutes later, age limitation is brought up and clearly explained. So I totally expect them to probably explain it in the future.
Yeah, when I first popped in the notes, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he missed that part. And then like I went down a few lines and I'm like, okay, no, he got it.
I was just typing my notes as I was watching it, so... my last sort of like, I don't know if it's a gripe, but something I just wanted to address was when Ben as Danny is kissing Angela, the champ's girlfriend. There seems to have been a lack of response from Addison, which seems unrealistic.
I didn't think so.
I didn't think so either.
She definitely got uncomfortable and was like, oh. Like,
yeah.
I guess she could have gotten more emotional.
But then Ben would be like, why?
Well, yeah, I don't think that it would have been something she would have been emotional about because she's professional enough to know, like, what's going on.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it just seemed like it wasn't.
She definitely showed like she was annoyed.
It was just kind of. Maybe I just missed. Maybe I looked down at my phone to type at the moment.
Yeah.
You were watching the kissing.
Saw that.
And then also, like, I also felt like she was a little annoyed, but she just kind of bit her tongue.
Mm-hmm.
But also, were they prepared for something like that? I mean, if she's been training to do this, and hey, you might be in a situation where this happens. Can you handle that?
Yeah.
That's fair to assume, I think. And like the jealousy would be justified, I think.
Oh yeah, of course.
But then yeah, you're right that it is likely that they were prepared for something.
But I
like
think
that.
if you go back,
except they would have prepared for it the other way around.
That's true. But
yeah,
I think if you go back and rewatch it, you'll find that she was clearly bothered.
Okay, well I'll take your word on that. I believe that.
Yeah,
I
think she did make like a comment, but it wasn't something that Ben could be like, well, what's her problem? It was just something she made a joke and
yeah.
But I took it as she's annoyed with this girl.
When we do come back to present day, and she is talking to, I'm fairly certain, Ian about her. It is Ian.
Yeah, it's Ian.
Her struggles with Ben not being there. I did think it was going to be brought up, but then it wasn't. So I think that's where I was typing that line out when there was no reaction. Like she was bothered about other things.
Yeah.
Like there is a lot of stress for not having her fiance there.
I mean, even though like they would have, like Ben and Addison would have in the past talked about that being an issue in the reverse, that's still something she would have known would come up though. Like,
yeah, that's true.
That's still something she would have known was going to, well, now that Ben's the leaper, I guess that means this is something I have to be prepared for.
And she knows he's not out there just kissing whoever.
Yeah,
the hell
I mean,
he
he's
wants.
not doing anything personal.
He's just, it would be different if he sought someone out and be like, okay, yeah, we're going to go make out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Plus the fact that he also has no idea.
Yeah, he's not being unfaithful.
That was funny. He's like, hey, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he even looks at Addison like, who is this?
Yeah, that.
I've got nothing. So anyway, yeah. So that's, like I said, I must have just missed that. But yeah, I just felt like in that moment there was like, there should have been more reaction based on her relationship. But yeah, it looks like you guys caught what I missed. So
It's that girl power.
Yeah. Got your back. Oblivious man.
Hey, I was writing. I'm sorry.
And you know what? Ben's oblivious does kind of make him adorable.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
so
mean,
obvious that Addison loves him, and she drops so many hints, and he's just like,
so much.
I wouldn't know how they
Right.
got together to begin with, because he seems kind of shy
yeah.
and not very.
She was definitely the more forward one, probably.
They kind of have a I can't remember what her name is, but like in Wreck-It Ralph, how like Fix It Felix and the big military lady end up together.
yeah.
Like, that's kind of their dynamic.
Wow, that's a very good
That
representation.
is 100%.
Ben is Felix.
I can fix it. Because he literally
And
is
he's
going
even
back
going
in
to
time
his-
and fixing
Yeah,
stuff.
that's.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that same thing. Okay. So that's everything I had to talk about this episode. Is there any final thoughts we have? Anything else that you want to bring up?
No, I think I covered everything I had. Far fewer science gripes this week.
Yeah, like I said in the last week, it was the things I've noticed. I think calling it a gripe is
It's not really a gripe.
Yeah, it's what I was saying, but it's not like I'm not complaining about the show. I'm just bringing up things that are fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And
And they were funny.
It is the first couple episodes. Things get better no matter what you're watching.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect when you first watch
I think
it.
your
Yeah.
suspension
They-
is going to get
they adapt.
a little more, your disbelief is going to be a little more suspended with each episode. You're getting a little
Yeah.
more used
The
to
deeper
it.
I get
Yeah.
into it. Also, like the more vested I am in the leap stories is kind of a big factor in that. The previous leap stories, I think I even said it almost seemed irrelevant what was happening in the leap, because I was more vested in the present day, and this episode was very much not true.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just as vested in the leap story, the drama, the characters, the everything about it was very. I think there was more emotion being felt by me in the leap story than the present day story on this episode, except
Until
for
the end.
until the OC Housewives.
Well,
Yeah.
really, until sort of it took the turn where Addison was clearly not okay, really.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, like in the last episode, the leap was more action adventure to me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, space, fun.
Yeah. Like it was
Even in the first episode too.
yeah, it was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. This one, yeah, and the original had those episodes too, where some would,
Mhm.
you're a mobster and here you
Yeah,
go,
man.
car chase, and then now it's, oh, you're a single mom of 3 kids. Enjoy,
Speaking of, 4 episodes in, we're getting our first. I don't know what even to call it. It's not trans, but he is being a woman, right?
Is it?
So
Yeah.
I don't think there's a word that covers what this is.
I don't think so either, because he's not.
Well, it's
Identifying.
it's
Yeah.
intersexual possession.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So
Temporary.
I think that that's definitely happening much sooner in this show than the first one, which makes sense.
I think back then they really wanted to test the waters before they dipped their toes in there.
Yeah,
Because well, you know how people are.
Yep.
But you know what? Those were some of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
and people are still people. I've seen people complaining about Mason, and I'm just like, get bent.
Yeah.
Fine, don't watch the show.
Disrespectfully,
But
get bent.
the show's not hurting you to have Mason in it, so just don't watch it. And if
And-
that really bothers you that much,
Honest to God, without Mason, the show would be hurting.
Yes, it would.
I mean, everybody is
they're
great,
integral.
but they just, I don't know, they make it.
They provide a very, very necessary flavor.
Well, I think the same can be said of any of our current
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
list. I mean, I'm not sure about Janice yet because we don't know much about her.
Right.
But
I'm
the
interested.
team,
She seems
I'm
fun.
interested. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just saying the team. Every single one of them has to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love what every single one of the actors are bringing to their character.
Yeah.
They're all being portrayed very well.
Yeah, they're very believable, and they're very relatable. And
Yeah, each in their own way.
yeah.
And I think, I mean, I'm going to use Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Those are the two most people like one of those two. Not everyone, but most people. Where each character is an exaggerated single personality trait for the most part, but a personality trait that everyone has. So you relate to all of them for their own reasons. And I think that makes really memorable television. And I think that's what's bringing what they're doing in the show. Each one of them does have an exaggerated, like unrealistic personality, right? They're going to be so them,
but based
that those
on a
kind
role
of
in a
people don't exist in
relationship,
real
though.
life. But people have those traits.
Yeah.
So I think everyone is relatable.
Yeah.
And I think that might be why I'm having a hard time picking a character, because I see myself in Ben, I see myself in Addison, I see myself in Ian, I see, there's something at some point in time where I'm like, that is exactly how I would do that. Or that is exactly how I would think that,
Yeah.
And that's just a great hallmark of good writing.
Yeah.
Good character development.
Exactly.
Sure.
I'm very interested to see how the next episode is going to play out. Like, what sort of discoveries Ben is going to make in this woman's consciousness. And
he'll know that men are scum.
Well, they seem to be diving right into, like, right away,
totally.
You're going to learn about the
and
things
this is
that
clearly
women have to
the
deal with.
mid to late 80s, right?
Yes.
It looks like,
So-
yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Judging by
Based
the
on what-
outfit,
Based on what Ben was wearing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that guy was just sleazy.
But
It's
the
like-
fact that that's what they're opening up with, like, hey, don't worry. When we get into this subject, we're going to be talking about how Ben's going to learn real quick the differences between existing as a woman out in public versus being a man. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about those things. But whether or not that's going to be what the crux of the lesson is, or if that's just going to be a necessary discussion topic when the main lesson is going to, like, there's going to be
I think
a
it's
bigger
more
focal point.
impactful if it's not the crux of the lesson.
Yeah.
Because women will have to deal with their real life and that no matter what they're doing. So let's make Ben deal with that and his actual mission at the same time.
Yeah.
And honestly, I know I said men are scum. They're not all scum, but I feel like that time period was like prime time for those douche nozzles to be hitting up those clubs. And
Oh,
being
yeah.
If
sleazy.
you're in a bar, most men in bars are scums. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't around in the 70s and 80s, but from what I have learned, that time period was a turning point of sort of women independence in going out in that sort of scenario.
Yeah.
Like, yes, women went to bars and everything beforehand, but it was different during the 80s and has remained
There were
different
more
since
corporate
then.
women. There were more like women with their own jobs, women out, living in their own
Yeah.
apartments, paying their own rents, wearing shoulder pads and pants. Like,
And this is yes, it happened before the 80s, but it became common after the
not
mid 80s.
just common, but like
80s.
trendy in the 80s. It became like this is an iconic, like, you want to be that girl. Like, you're a working
So
woman.
Ben's gonna be right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
Of that, which is cool. And then they show us right off the bat, like, hey, we're not going to tiptoe around this. Let's look at what Ben's dealing with based on just what he looks like because he has boobs. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I think it was the first episode. You had said you had saw a scene that I never saw, and I found out why. I'm not seeing it on Peacock.
What are you talking about?
You watched it. The scenes from the next episode.
Oh, I watched it when it aired, and then I watched
know.
it on Peacock.
Did you see the scenes from the next episode on Peacock?
I don't.
Because I don't see them available. Once the credits are over, it's done, and there's no scenes
know
from
what?
the next episode.
I don't know, because after the episode ends, I just shut it off because I've already seen those
Okay.
scenes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's why I'm not seeing those scenes from the next episode, because they're not playing it on the streaming service. So I remember you said something about like the next episode having more magic, and I was like, how do you know that? And you're like, oh, well, then when they showed this, this, and this, I was like, I didn't see that. It's because it's not available.
Okay.
Or if it is available, I'm not seeing where it's available.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I watch it the night it airs, and it's like the last few minutes.
Yeah.
Usually, and it's those,
right after the
those
credits,
scenes.
right? Or right before the credits?
I think it's like right. I don't know now. No, I think it's like
And forever
You know how
since
they kinda
I've
I
do
see the
split
leap
screen?
in, but yeah.
they do the split.
Oh
screen.
yeah, the picture in picture.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like
Yeah,
that.
our picture in picture. Every time we watch the most current episode, it puts season 1, episode 1 of the original series in the picture.
Like
in
it
picture.
wants to.
that's
It wants us to go
start
watch that.
replaying it.
Yeah.
You're like, no, wait a minute.
So yeah, that's why I'm not catching the scenes from next week, because they're not there on the streaming service.
Probably,
I only just figured that out on this episode, so
You can probably find it on YouTube, I'm sure.
I probably could. But I'm also like, I don't know. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't even like watching trailers because they give away so much.
I'm a spoiler whore. I'm trying so hard to like not go to the spoiler sites.
If you do, you better leave me out of it.
You stay in your lane, Christina.
I'm
Stay in your
trying
lane.
so hard. Like when Once Upon a Time was on the air, they played like between 2 and 4 sneak peeks every week, and I would gobble them up. And I would go to the spoiler sites,
They're
and
horrible.
I would see like if anybody had any clue what was happening. I did that for like so many shows. I did that for like Gilmore Girls and Charmed. I went through and I would find all of them.
You just want all the content.
I need to. Okay, this is the first show I've watched weekly in a long time.
Yeah.
I am a huge binge watcher, and this is really hard for me.
Yeah.
I do prefer binge watching.
Yeah.
There are many TV shows I have waited to finish at least a season at a time. And I was like that before binge culture became a part of why binge culture became binge culture, because I would wait for shows to finish and then wait for it to go on Netflix and then watch it all.
Yeah. And
obviously a lot of people did that, and that's why binge culture became a thing. But
yeah, and before Netflix, I went to the spoiler site. So
yeah.
so I mean, I'm impatient.
There you go.
I'm impatient.
Except you guys know now Netflix is abandoning that. They're going to start making all their shows weekly. They announced that.
I hate them.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why. Like, you spend all this money and then you only have something in the top watches for like a few days.
Yeah, I watched
If you
all
release
of
it weekly.
the last season of Cobra Kai. I watched it all in one day.
You told me. We watched it in 2.
Yeah,
but,
2 or 3 at most.
but I mean, that's exactly it, right? If they released it episode by episode, then they would be in the top. That show would be in the number 1 spot for 10 weeks, not 2 days.
True.
1 for every episode.
And it would
so.
also be, and this is another major tangent, but it would also be a better indicator of the quality of the show and or movie because
Oh yeah, that's true.
because a lot of the time, like, something will be trending the first couple of days that it's out because everybody's watching it to check it out. But if it's continuing to
watching
trend several episodes in, that means it's good. But just because a bunch of people watched it the day that it came out just means a lot of people were interested. Doesn't mean they all liked the final result and kept watching it. Like,
that's true too.
That's true.
I'm going to be really spicy right now and use Hocus Pocus 2 as an example. Like, just because it just became that Disney Plus was like, it's the most successful, most views we've ever had for anything we've premiered since launching the app. I'm like, of course it is. You knew it was going to be. It doesn't have any mark on whether or not the movie was good. It just means you knew that everyone was going to watch. Who wasn't going to watch that? Of course they were all going to watch it, but it sucked.
I didn't watch it.
Well, you know,
I haven't yet. And my coworker watched it, and she was like, "You need to just watch it, just because
yeah,
it's your sequel. You need to watch it. I don't know if you like it or not, but you should."
Well, spoiler alert, I hated it. It made me real mad, and I screamed into a pillow. But, you know, I understand not everyone felt that way. But my point is that it was very divisive. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. But it wasn't universally everyone said that it was great. However, all of those people, whether they loved it or hated it, they still watched it within the first 48 hours it was out. So that's definitely the weekly format is, I think, a better indicator of the staying power of a show.
Yeah, it wouldn't do anything for movies, but for a show.
But movies, can't they tell when you shut it off like halfway through?
Oh, totally. Netflix can, but that doesn't mean they're reporting it in their trending.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
YouTube, I think, requires 30 seconds of a watch to be a watch, and that's it.
No, that's not
But
a lot.
videos are encouraged to be 10 minutes though. So that's a huge disparity between what a watch is and how much a video is.
Yeah.
So for this week's question, we would like to know if your social circle has a family dynamic, kind of like Ben's. If so, which sibling or parent are you? Also, like, does it match whether you're a sibling or a parent in real life with your family? What do you think, Andrew?
So I think there's probably two answers to this question. There is going to be our own perception and everyone else's perception, right?
Yeah.
I think I perceive myself. It can also depend which friends you're with, right?
I mean, I
As
haven't
you
had
get
like
older,
a
you don't just-
friend group since high school, right?
Yeah,
Like, I don't think that's
exactly,
not really
right.
a
We
grown-up
have
thing.
different like friend get-togethers, and not all of them overlap. But in general, for most of them, most of my friends, I feel like I'm more of the big brother or father because I have the tools, I have the skills, I have the knowledge, and I'm often the one that is sought after to help out with those things.
Yeah, you do
but-
the dad thing and like step in and
Yeah.
fix the cars and the
Fix
Oh, I
the
can
car,
fix
fix
that.
the computer, fix the house, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And teach how to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have one friend, and you know who it is, who would be the younger brother in that scenario, because I have learned from him so many of the things that I know. So there's always that sort of dynamic where, even though I'm much farther than I used to be in my handy skills and the equipment that I have, he started earlier, so he's always a step ahead. So that's how I perceive myself most of the time.
I feel like, as perceiving you and this friend together a lot of the time now, it's sort of like watching two chaotic twins. So
Yeah, I can see that for sure. He came and visited us from Vegas the other week, and as we're walking through the parking lot, he notices a Jeep, and within 1 minute, we're on our hands and knees inspecting this guy's Jeep. And like, why did he have this when he doesn't have this? Why are these leaf springs attached like this when they're not attached when they have this part? It was pretty funny.
judgy dad bros, both of you.
Yeah.
But in actual family dynamics, you are not an older sibling. That's kind of funny. Like,
No, I am the youngest. I'm the baby.
Got away with everything.
No, I did not.
I was not.
I would
there.
like to remind you that I was grounded for 6 months when you pulled my hair in church, because I'm the one that made a grunting sound in the middle of mass or whatever it's called.
I don't remember pulling your hair in
Oh,
church.
I do, because I was grounded for 6 months for disrupting church.
6 months.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Lord, you guys as parents.
Yeah, we had some long-term groundings. Remember when we got in a fight and got grounded off Nintendo for 6 months?
I don't.
Oh, that was the worst.
Well-
I don't remember the hair pull though.
Probably I probably don't remember that one because I'm sure I snuck the Nintendo into my room or something.
Oh, probably.
And probably just didn't abide by the grounding.
Probably.
So what about you, Christina?
Well, I'd like to say I'm the mom friend, and I think it's kind of changed as I grew up. I feel like maybe that's how I was when I was younger. I was the person who would cook dinner for people, take them out places, just kind of be that mom person. Now that I'm getting closer to midlife crisis, area, I've become the little sister. Come on, let's go out and party.
Yeah.
Let's get into trouble.
Now your daughter's the mom character or the mom sibling.
She actually
Yeah.
is the mom friend in her friend group. Like her and her boyfriend, they're the parents. I always say they're the parents.
I will say that your daughter probably grew up to be the most responsible out of
Right?
everyone else in this family.
Right? I'm like, what did I do? I must have done something right. But yeah, she's super responsible.
Yeah, and I've found myself in friend groups with your daughter a couple of times when we go on outings to like horror nights or something, and
That's so wild
I will
that she's old enough to
Yeah.
do that.
Mhm.
I think this is true for everybody though, that your role in the friend family can definitely change depending on which group of friends you're with, right? Like it's not like it was in high school, obviously, where there's the same friend group all the time. You're gonna hang out with different circles depending on the situation and who's free when. Now it's like you have to schedule specific times to hang out with specific people because everybody's working and living their lives and being adults, and so it's not always going to be the same friend group, and it's not always, also not often a group at all, like in the first place. So, but yeah, kind of like Andrew said, how it depends on the friends he's with. I've definitely witnessed Andrew be more the dad friend, to the point where our friends will actually comment on that, like, what a dad Andrew is, when he's like, as he's opening the hood of their car. But then other times, like, yeah, he'll be the chaotic twin to the right people. But yeah, and just to clarify, also, Christina, you are the eldest sibling of three.
Yeah, that
in
is
real
true.
life, not I mean, in actual family. Not that friends aren't real life, but in in actual
in
family.
my family.
Yeah.
So, like, that could be part of it too. Like, I'm so used to being the one that my parents are like, you need to watch your siblings. You need, you need to be the example. So now that I don't have to do that, it's like, well, I'm gonna go have fun now, and I'm gonna be the little sister friend.
Yeah, now that your daughter's all grown up and
Yeah,
more or less moved out, but
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, for me, it definitely depends on who I'm with, but I do most if I am hanging out in a group, I am probably at a theme park, or I'm probably at like a convention, and
right.
in those scenarios, I tend to be the child because I want to run around and look at everything and ask for things and, like, what's that? Let's go see that. However, if it's something like, if I'm in a position where I feel like I have a lot of knowledge or insight about something, like if I'm going to Disneyland with somebody who's like hasn't been in a really long time or who's never been, then I become the tour guide friend. Actually, yeah, chaotic tour guide friend. That feels right for me. Because I'm like, leading you. If you've ever been around, okay, I'll put it in these terms. If you've ever been to a back to school night with like an elementary school student. That's hard to say. Can you say that? Elementary school student.
Elementary school student.
Elementary stool. And the little kid is like leading you around, like, and this is where my science, this is where my teacher is. This is where my friends and I sat and, talked about this. And over here, oh, come look at this. This is where I drew a frog. And like, that's kind of, I have that sort of energy in the friend group, I guess. But I also have a couple of friends who are younger than me and actually younger than me. And, will come to me for advice on things. But I try really hard to not be too mom-friendly, mainly because I don't want to feel old and I don't want to get weighted with a bunch of responsibility of having to deal with everybody else's problems too much. Like, because I love listening, but there's always a line to walk, right? You don't want to end up being a therapist friend too much, but
no.
But sometimes, with the right people, you find yourself in that position. So I definitely can slide into that mode with the right people, but certainly not for everybody. But yeah, I'm going to say, chaotic 5-year-old, which is kind of the inverse of Andrew's situation, because in the family, he's the baby, but in friend groups, he tends to be the dad. In friend groups, I tend to be the youngest sibling in my energy, but in my actual family dynamic, I am the eldest sibling, but only of two. I'm the older of two in real life. I don't know, I keep saying real life. Like, friends are also real life, but like, friend family versus blood family.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
works. Not imaginary friends, real
Yeah,
friends.
yeah. Well, I'm clearly the head, boss of all the friends when it comes to my imaginary friends. Like,
Oh,
they don't
yeah,
do nothing,
of course.
without my approval. Like,
I will unimagine you.
I brought you into this world. I can take you right out. Yeah.
So,
Well, anyway, what kind of stuff are we
I
plugging?
repair what? Yeah.
On that
I
note,
repair old tech and
I'm
stream
going
it
to say on
Twitch.
that note.
This weekend, I'm going to be working on a Nintendo Entertainment System from 1985. I will be doing a little bit of repair, but mostly modifying it. I'm going to give it some high-quality RGB video output so it can be displayed on modern TVs, even though I'll still be using CRT. And I'm also going to be removing the security system so I can play unlicensed games. So you can catch that on twitch.tv/claxmaster. My friend also has a podcast, Pop Prism Power. Two best friends discuss every pop culture item under the sun. You can check Alora out on @PopPrismPower on all the socials. Links also in the show notes.
Okay. Me? Okay. Oh,
Me.
let's do it all at the same time.
We start talking at the same time. Go,
There's a new episode of Sydnni Talk Cold Cases. It dropped on Wednesday, and this week we're covering the cases of baby Lisa Irwin and on the American side, because we do one American, one Canadian. And then on the Canadian side will be the case of Tu Ma, and it was a family case. So
Grim.
that dropped Wednesday.
Wow. I am officially not plugging Hocus Pocus 2. But also, I've mentioned before, I also host the Dark Crystal podcast, Trial by Stone. Currently, everything over in the world of Dark Crystal is circulating around this humongous convention we are having for the 40th anniversary. That the Henson Company is actually promoting. They're posting it on all of their official social medias as well. But it is with the Great Conjunction. It is a 40th anniversary convention. It is going to be next month at the Hilton Universal in Hollywood. So if you go to thegreatconjunction.com, and check out tickets, and if you're interested in going to an event, there's going to be tons of people from the movie and from the show, including like props, puppets, panels, events, a tour of the Henson building, a tour of the creature shop. Those are possible things you can add on to your ticket. Going to Brian Henson's office, like the list goes on. If you're into puppets, dude, just go check it out. So that's happening next month. GreatConjunction.com, and of course Dark Crystal Podcast on all of the social medias. And also my personal stuff, if you find me at Blackstarfardreamer on Instagram, I have a bunch of art posts coming up because it is October, which means Inktober
Yay.
/ Halloween. So
Thank you all for
art
joining
posts
us
are
this
coming.
week. Don't forget, Bruce Willis is not a sponsor. And we'll
I was just going to say that.
shout out to Bruce Willis, because he's Bruce Willis.
Shout out to Bruce Willis,
No
though.
explanation needed, but not a sponsor.
Wish him the best.
And we'll catch y'all next time.
Bye. What did you think of today's show? Send us a message on Anchor or find us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at PQL Podcast. Links will be provided in the show notes.
Show us some love. Follow and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a rating in your favorite podcast app. You can also help support the podcast by visiting either our Anchor support page or PayPal link in the show notes. All supporters will get a special mention at the end of our episodes, and we are working on new and exciting perks to bring you in the future.